In this video, I will show you how to do a mesh network setup using an EAP 1300 EXT as a mesh AP. In this case, it will be the source, and then EAP 1250 as the mesh point, which will be your repeater. To start off, go on the Network tab and click on Wireless. By default, green mode will be enabled. I advise to disable green mode. Now we're going to choose the channel frequency. Make sure to deselect all frequencies on the 2.4 and 5 GHz. This will let you choose the frequency you would like to use. Alright, so we're going to choose the channel 1 for the 2.4 GHz. And for this demonstration, we're going to choose 149 for your 5 GHz. Remember to choose the same channel frequency on your mesh point in order for them to sync successfully. Once you're done, click Save. Okay, now we're going to set up your SSID for the broadcasting. Since we're going to use the 5 GHz for the mesh setup, we're going to disable it, and we're just going to use AP mode in the 2.4 GHz. You can choose any SSID you like. In this case, we're going to use Mesh Lab since we're here in the lab doing this video for you. On the security mode, make sure you write this security number down or whatever passphrase that you use, because you have to use the same one on your mesh point in order for the mesh fast roaming is enabled. Click Save. Okay, now I suggest you to disable the management interface since we're going to be using the mesh setup. Okay, now click Apply to save your changes. Once the device has applied the changes, you will be redirected to the main page. Now it's time to enable the mesh feature. Under the Mesh tab, you have Status, Settings, and Tools. Click on Settings. By default, the mesh is disabled. We're going to now enable it. And in this case, this EAP 1300 EXT will be the mesh AP. We consider this as the source device because it's connected to the switch, then it goes to the router, and then it goes to the modem. Okay, now we're going to use the 5 GHz as our mesh band. In this section, it's very important that you write down whatever mesh ID you choose, because you will need it for your second and third or fourth device. Depends on how many hops you're planning to add to your mesh network. So in this case, we're going to choose the default 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is automatic. You can customize it if you want, but for this demonstration, we're just going to leave it in default. The password, you can also change it to a personalized one. We're just going to leave it by default. Okay, now we're going to press Save. You will get this notification telling you to please change the channel settings in the wireless setting page. If you recall, we already did that, so you can skip this and just press OK. On the bottom section, apply the changes. Once the device has applied the changes, you will be redirected to the main page. Okay, now we go to Mesh, click on Status, and you will see that the status has been enabled. The mesh interface is in the 5 GHz. It will give you the mesh ID that you chose, the mesh channel, and the mesh type, which is in this case, this is the root node. Now it's time to configure your mesh point. In this case, we're going to use an EAP 1250. Okay, now we're going to set up your mesh point. We're going to go to Network and press Wireless. We're going to also disable green mode. We're going to go ahead and choose the channel configuration. And remember, we're going to choose the same channels that we use on the primary device. In this case, it was channel 1 for the 2.4 gigahertz and channel 149 for your 5 gigahertz. Click Save. Okay, now we're going to scroll down to the SSID. We're going to edit this. We're going to disable the 5 gigahertz. And we're going to call it Mesh Lab, the same as in the first device, so you can have the ability to use the fast roaming feature. Security mode. And make sure you use the same fur phrase that you used on your first node. You can press Save. All right, lastly, we're going to go to the Mesh tab and press Settings. We're going to enable it. Now the operation mode for the second device, it's going to be a mesh point. Make sure you type in the mesh ID that you chose and the password that you assign for this mesh settings. Once you verify that you have correctly inputted this information, you can press Save. If you haven't done the channel settings, please go back and do the corresponding channel settings and make sure that they match the first device. Okay, now press Apply. Once the device has applied the changes, you will be directed to the main page. Now we can check the status of the mesh network to see if they have successfully associated with each other. As you can see, now on the mesh device list, we have the EAP EXT. If you go back to your primary one, you go to status, refresh it, and you will see that the EAP 1250 is now associated under the mesh network. Congratulations! If you see your mesh point on the mesh device list, that means that you have set your mesh point successfully.